I'm very excited to be joined today, which is Earth Day, it's Earth Week, it's Earth Month. We hope everyone cares about the Earth all the time, but we're putting a laser focus on a fantastic documentary called We Are Guardians, produced by Fisher Stevens, who's here with us, and co directed by Chelsea Greene. Fisher Stevens, as you all know, is an Academy Award winning producer, director, actor, and writer whose work spans fiction and documentary, including producing the Oscar winning documentary The Cove, directing landmark climate films such as Mission Blue with Sylvia Earle on Netflix, Before the Flood, and series like Beckham. Chelsea Greene is a documentary filmmaker and co-director of We Are Guardians, whose work centers on wildlife, indigenous guardianship, and environmental justice, drawing on years of immersive storytelling in the Amazon and award-winning projects like Borneo's Vanishing Tribes. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us, Vanessa. Glad to
Yeah,
be here on Earth Day, Earth Week, Earth Year, and Earth just be on Earth, period.
e- exactly. Chelsea, so we don't leave them out. Can you tell us who your co-directors are on this excellent film, We Are Guardians?
Of course, yeah. I co-directed the film with Rob Grobman and Ejivan Guashajada. And Ejivan is an Indigenous filmmaker from the community, one of the communities that the film focuses on. And he also is one of the co-founders of Media Indigena, which if you don't know about them, I recommend you give them a follow on social media. They're an Indigenous-led journalistic organization who is bringing the stories from the front lines of the Amazon. And they're amazing. So I was so happy to co-direct the film with them.
And for listeners who haven't seen We Are Guardians yet, how do you each describe the film and the story you set out to tell in the Amazon?
We Are Guardians tells the story of the people who are putting their bodies in the way of people who are trying to destroy the forest. And there's multiple characters involved, and they're from different perspectives. There's also the perspective of the illegal loggers who are invading indigenous territories to cut down trees to make a living. And the whole film follows these characters closely who live and die by the forest, telling the overall story of what's happening in the Amazon and why it's important and what we can do about it.
Chelsea and company and the directors also end up getting into Brasilia, the capital, where the elections are being held, where Bolsonaro is running against Lula. And they also break down the difference between the two candidates and how the election would affect the rainforest in terms of the environmental damage that would happen if Bolsonaro would have won again, would be continue to be president.
Yeah, it's a very multi-layered story. You tell it incredibly well. I wonder what the first spark was for the project and how each of you got involved.
Well, the first spark for me was seeing the images of the Amazon burning. I was just so shocked when I saw that the day had turned to night in Sao Paulo in 2019, that there was just such massive fires. I mean, it was the year that Australia was burning really bad. There were so many fires out of control, and climate change was just feeling so real to me at that time that I thought, how is humanity purposefully setting the Amazon rainforest of all places on fire? One of the most important carbon sinks and climate regulators on the planet, setting it on fire for something so silly as slash and burn agriculture, which doesn't even make sense, which we can get into later. I just felt the injustice of that. Having worked on the documentary in Borneo and seeing the indigenous people's fight against palm oil companies and how important tropical forests are, and how Brazil had been a leader in reducing tropical deforestation before that. They had shown the world that it's possible, and then they undid all of that progress to set it on fire. And so that's why I went down to Brazil and started filming and just dropped everything that was going on in my life to start capturing whatever story I could. And I didn't really know what was going to happen, nor had ever been to Brazil before. I just fell in love with the people and the culture and the Amazon that first trip. And then when we came back and we started talking with Fisher, that was another spark for me because I'm such a fan of Fisher's work. And, his films had inspired me to get into documentary filmmaking and go to film school. And so I was just honored to be able to work with him and thrilled that he wanted to jump on.
And Fisher, they brought it to you, this project?
Well, I mean, it came to me through a friend of theirs, Bruce Cohen, who is a Oscar-winning producer, but didn't never made a documentary and didn't really know this world, so he gave it to me. There were two other people that Bruce was working with, helping them, Zach Kilberg and Maura Anderson, and they sent me this trailer. I'd never met any of these people except Bruce, and the trailer kind of blew my mind, but it wasn't quite. I was like, well, if I'm going to work with these people, I want to sort of test them. And if we're going to raise money, I think the trailer needs to be a little better, even though it was good. And I gave them some notes. They resent me a cut of the trailer, and it blew my mind. I was like, holy shit! A, they're brilliant, and B, they take direction, or at least agree with me a little bit. So I was all in. I took that trailer and I helped them raise funds with Zach and Maura and Marco Krapels, who became our executive producer, who worked with me and Leo DiCaprio on Before the Flood. He got involved and helped us raise money. And then we were off to the races. And these guys, these three directors, are in the middle of the rainforest, risking their lives. Next thing you know, and you know, there was moments where they were deep in the forest where I think, all of us on the I was in New York at the time, in Brooklyn, and we had to, like, advise them to kind of step down for a second because they were getting death threats. I mean, they were really pushing it in a great way, but dangerous way, and I just admired them, and, it took a long time. Their commitment is, as you could tell, Chelsea is still very involved, so what I love about these guys, Chelsea and Rob and Edgevon, is they're committed to the cause more than this isn't a career stepping stone for them. This is a life choice that they've made to help save the Amazon. And it's a long way round of saying that, it's been a beautiful experience, but it wasn't easy, and these guys, they have balls. They're seriously warriors themselves.
Maybe we should talk a little now about this fact that you have been on the road with this film since its release in 2023, right? And we've had a similar experience with the level of commitment to the subject and passion for getting the word out. And I wonder how you all approach this. For Ted, it's called slow distribution. He thinks it's the only way to really generate real conversation and impact around a film is to keep it out there. So it's important that it's not just Earth Day that we get everyone to watch it, but pay
Yeah.
attention in general. Can you speak to this question of getting the film out there and continuing to generate interest now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to hear Fisher's experience too, because as I've understand, the industry has really changed, and it's not as easy to get distribution as it used to be for a documentary. And I assume even more so since we called out some of the biggest companies and banks in the world and how interconnected our corporate system and banking system is with maybe these various streaming platforms. We had a commitment to the communities. You know, many filmmakers and journalists go to the communities and extract a story somewhat colonistically and don't return on any of their promises. And we're just dedicated, you know, we just really wanted to help. Like I said, the whole reason we went to Brazil and started filming was just to help and to try to do something because it's so urgent. And when we were with the communities, they clearly needed help with their guardianship programs, and they wanted to reforest huge areas that had gotten burned, and they wanted to create a bioeconomy, something they could sell with the forest standing to make an income to keep these projects going. And so we said that we would try to help. And so since the film premiered at Hot Docs, we set up a website, we started collecting donations. Edgevon and Pui have been advising the whole time on what their communities need and the projects they want to do. We've done tons of trainings, we've done screenings and impact events all over the world. We've been able to show it in the US Congress and the Brazil Congress and get
At
it
the
in front of,
UN, at the
yeah,
United Nations. Yeah.
at the UN, really just taking every opportunity and offer that we could. And thanks to the help of all the amazing, like somewhat like 100 partners that we worked with throughout all of the screenings and events. And we've been able to raise $1 million for this, for distribution of the film and bringing supplies to the communities, and they've done such a good job. I mean, there's a group of women in Ejivon's community that have planted over 100,000 trees now, and they're not stopping anytime soon. And Puyi's territory is amping up their reforestation project too. And so I never thought I'd take such a turn from filmmaking into like founding a nonprofit and basically what we've been able to achieve. But it's been so rewarding and difficult, and I've learned so many new things out of it. But I think that's really true. When it comes to an impact documentary, you have to stay dedicated. It's been 2 years we've been at this, and we wouldn't have been able to achieve any of the things we had if we had just put it up on streaming and been like, okay, we're done. We'll, even just collect some donations and send them down there. We were very active.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel that having a co-director who's Brazilian made a difference in the impact in Brazil and screening in the Brazilian Congress and how you looked at authorship and, as you said, not being extractive or colonial about it in the storytelling?
Absolutely. Him being an Indigenous co-director brought most of this, of the ability to us to be able to achieve so much impact and recognition, because really Indigenous people want to and need to be telling their own stories. And so we really let him lead so many parts of the creation of the film and the impact campaign in that way. And Puyi Tembe, we brought Marsal to a couple of the screenings and events, and Puyi is such a powerful speaker and leader. I mean, some of our bigger donors were just enamored and just wanted to bring her because she's so amazing and well spoken. And so, I mean, yes, most of the success of the impact campaign is attributed to them and their just beauty and stage presence a lot of times.
Their commitment is
Yeah.
just inspiring as well. Like they are also incredibly brave, and they face serious threats every day as well, especially Marsal and Ejiofor as well. To me, the real inspiration has been watching everybody stick with it because, after Before the Flood, we tried and we stuck with it a bit, but that movie is so depressing to watch right now because we were like, everything that we dreaded is kind of happening and happening even faster than 2030 when we thought the real problems would really start, but they
Yeah.
started, so it's nice to have a little bit of positivity and inspiration in the environmental space with what's going on and what these people have accomplished.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
really it's really interesting in the film, I felt how you also include the perspective of an illegal logger. You give us an understanding of what's driving this illegal trade, that it's survival, I mean, and that there's a difficulty in enforcing environmental law. Was it challenging to get that perspective into the story? How did you go about it, and has it helped people understand how to make a difference?
Well, yeah, at the core of the story, we wanted people to understand that the people who are destroying the forests are ultimately, as Valdir would say, just the peons, the pawns of these big companies, and they make no money. They're slaves to this system that really keeps the Amazon biome poor on purpose. So these really the extractive industries that are in charge, logging, ranching, mining, and now even in some places oil extraction is ramping up. The few elite are just controlling these industries and expanding the deforestation frontier to create corrupt municipalities. I think the story of Tadeo, we don't talk about him very much, but he's got this huge land that they built a municipality in his land built on, corruption, where the money from the sawmills go to the mayor, and then that just expands over and over across the frontier. But yeah, it was somewhat difficult to find Valdir, and this was one of the amazing, beautiful synchronicities of making this film. And we set out from the beginning to sell this perspective because extreme polarization is one of the problems. Most Brazilians agree they want to protect the Amazon, but the political right and left has them convinced in different directions of what's real and what's
Mhm.
not, and what's actually happening. So we wanted to show that perspective, and we wanted that to come to light. And we set out into the middle of nowhere to find Valdir on these logging roads. And we had a liaison who had worked with the loggers in the past, and he had turned into environmentalist and wanted to help. And he was scared. He was like, these guys are armed. They don't want to be found. But we just kept pushing a bit further, and we found him right as the sun was about to go down on like the second day of driving through these little roads, destroying our rental car with vines. And he was there, and we got out, and the sun was going down, and we're like, "Can we get an interview with you? We just wanna tell your perspective. What do you feel? What's going on with the Amazon?" And he said yes, and he invited us back to his camp, and we spent some such really good times together, actually. I mean, it was heart-wrenching to watch him cut all the trees down. We watched so many of them. And then we came back 6 months later, and we're able to find him again in the middle of the forest with no phone. And that was one of the magics of this production, that we set out into this tangled web of logging road. Once again, we're like, "I don't know where he's gonna be." But he had a premonition that we were coming back, and the day before sent someone to wait by the roadside to find us and show us where their new logging camp was. And so I
Wow.
think that really showed us to keep going, to keep, to not give up. And even he stood by our side when we got death threats. He really wanted to protect us in the situation. The film came out on Netflix, and I'm not sure how related it was, but not that much longer, like a week or so later, there was a military and police operation to remove all the loggers from that territory. And Valjeer managed to get out just in time. And so he was safe at home. He's now stopping logging. He's no longer logging. We've been supporting with some things for him. And he's pretty much in retirement, spending more time with his family. So that's a good
And his
outcome.
monkey, and
And
his
his
monkey.
monkey, yeah.
Fisher, I imagine you were a huge help in the edit, trying to figure out how to weave together all these elements. As you said, there's the Lula Bolsonaro angle politically, there's some history and economics and science, and then these intimate character portraits and these big shots of the Amazon and
You know.
the horrible scenes of trees being cut and falling. Did you help in that edit? And the structuring and the storytelling?
I mean, I hoped I did. We tried, there was a lot. These guys shot a lot of footage, I have to say, and it was definitely the jigsaw puzzle, Vanessa, that you're used to doing as well. It's
Yeah,
this one, they're all difficult, right? They're all
yeah,
difficult. It's finding the balance between, the mappers and the scientists and Puyer and and Vladir, and it's finding that balance was not easy, I would say.
yeah,
And also, to be honest, I'd say I was probably more helpful with just like helping them figure out what to film. These guys could have kept shooting many things, and it's trying eventually, once you feel like you understand where the story's going, focusing the filmmakers on that so they don't get too sidetracked. And also, we had very little limited funds, so
yeah,
you want to use those funds wisely.
mhm,
Um, and we brought in a couple of really helpful people, I think, in the edit. We went, Vanessa, how it is. You start with, oh, this editor's gonna save us, and then we're not gonna mention names, but they help, but then
yeah,
they're, they're not the savior that you thought. So
yep,
um, you have to keep going back and finding other people that are inspired or come with ideas or carry out the vision of Chelsea and Edgevon and Rob, and basically more Zach and I also trying to guide them. But you need a lot of cooks with this because also there's not, this was made on a pretty thin shoestring,
yeah,
considering they were in Brazil and they had to fly back and forth. I mean, Chelsea, of course, had the first class, had to fly first class and had the M&M red only rider in her trailer and all that. I mean, she was a real prima donna, but the rest, no, I'm kidding. They were like amazing. They would
yeah.
they'd fly on the floor of the airplane if they needed to.
What?
And you know, they were
We slept in hammocks a lot with the
they slept.
jaguars.
What? That's
Yes,
Yeah. There were
yeah, no,
jaguars circling our camp as we were sleeping in hammocks like little human sushis.
what? That was where I was going next is what did it look like to shoot in the forest, and how long would you stay, and how much gear did you need, and how big was your crew, and what were your safety concerns?
Well, in the previous question too, I mean, Fisher, you gotta take credit for your idea to shoot more verite. I mean, we were less experienced in that type of filmmaking, and we're so grateful for that input and really made it sing. And we had Autinus, a direct, he was really like a professor of dramaturgy. I mean, that's what he does now, and we learned so much about verite filmmaking, and it was such a pleasure. But So
Yeah,
in
there was
terms of
very much it was very much at the beginning like an environmental movie like you'd expect where they'd sit people down and they'd interview them, and there was like, we were like, well, but very little of that exists in the film actually anymore, because it was more about capturing real life, and cutting some of the VO of those interviews is in there, which is great. And then you get them in action, and that's where they're actually being more real and telling us more information that we want to hear, and being more authentic to what an audience like we want to like Vanessa and I want to see, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And people in Rio, people in Sao Paulo, city
Mhm.
folk, you know.
Yep.
Right. I like that you get more information from the film just by observing their lives rather than someone telling you information. That was like
Yeah.
one thing that we were able to achieve. Um, so in terms of going and filming, so we usually split up. We had Edgivon would be with a different crew with a cinematographer and a field producer up in the indigenous territory a lot. Rob and I would be on a separate unit down in Hondonia where the loggers and Tadeo were. And it was really difficult to find the right people sometimes to come on these missions with us. Imagine asking someone, "Hey, will you come and be our translator, film producer?" We didn't know Portuguese at first, but we learned throughout the process, and but we always needed a translator just to make sure we were really understanding everything. And Brazilians trust Brazilians more a lot of times on production. So finding the people to fill this role. Thank God we found the right people, but imagine asking someone, "Hey, do you want to come in the middle of the Amazon, drive days in a car and to find people who are armed and dangerous and try to film them, and we can't pay you that much." you know? And so I think there is a great story of this one woman that we hired who I told her all of this up front on the phone. I was very frank. I'm like, this is exactly what we're doing, and this is what could happen, not sugarcoating it. And she was like, "Yes, I'm in, let's go." And then we're in a situation where we're on a mission on a boat. We went on like 12 missions at the Guardians filming. We're on a mission on a boat and we get off onto land, and there's an invader hiding in the bushes, and he holds the people in the line at gunpoint. And she freaked out, went back to the boat, wouldn't help us, even though we were still needing to film more. The gunman fled, but we still were going to go and check out this logging camp. And she was terrified and refused to do anything else. And so I think I learned more Portuguese on that day than I did the entire rest of production. But yeah,
Wow.
it was usually just me and Rob on camera, someone with a boom, if lucky. A lot of times the audio is just captured from a shotgun on the camera, and
Yeah.
a translator field producer. And
Yeah.
as Jivan has an advantage of speaking 2P, and so when we were filming with the indigenous, certain indigenous peoples, we would have him translating and really like being the producer director.
Amazing, amazing. So, Fisher, let's talk about how to save the environment with this film and The Cove, the other films you've directed, Mission Blue, Before the Flood, and how can these films make a difference? How many more of these films do we need to keep making to get people to pay attention and
Well,
change?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I got a bit discouraged. I mean, I also made the first documentary on Trump after he was president, the Trump
Yes,
president, on Netflix, thinking, wow, this film's gonna really, if people see this film, if he does run again, there's no way you could possibly vote for this madman. And
right.
nothing. You know,
Yeah.
when he was elected again, look, I know it's not just him. I don't say Trump is our problem, because he's not. He's one of them. There's many other issues.
Do people learn from what they watch, right? I mean,
Yeah, they learn from what they watch, but the youth movement, the kids are so much more aware of of the environment, and they care. I mean, my kids do, and they're only 10 and 12, and I think that's the hope. But I have to say the filmmaking, I mean, we're and Chelsea and I have been discussing another project that we're circling about the effects of that war have on the environment. And
so
when you
major.
see what's going on in Iran, when you see what's going on in Gaza and Israel, and you see Ukraine and Russia, and you see what is going, these bombs that are going up, the destruction, the chemicals in the air. then in the sea with the oil, with Venezuela. I mean,
Yeah.
that the environmental degradation that we are talking about that is happening now every day, we are at war,
Yeah.
is like so then I'm going, well, people have to know that too. Like it's not
Mhm.
just people are dying, which is horrible.
Right.
And what's going on everywhere is so
Yeah.
unbelievable. But people are going to die as a result of what's going up in the air. And,
Mhm.
think about 9/11 and all these
Yeah.
people that are now getting sick and
Yeah.
have been getting sick. Well, this 9/11 stuff is going on all over the world every day.
Yep.
And so I get like, so we're trying to figure out a film to make people aware of that. But
Yeah.
um I don't know.
That's
I mean, I'm about to make a movie about Vogue magazine because I'm just so depressed about it all.
it's good to have a lighter subject in the
Yeah,
balance.
no, it is. Although,
Yeah.
yeah, although you can get into some, but yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I'm gonna continue to think about it, and every day I send an article to my assistant going, let's look into this, let's look into that. But
Yeah.
I would say it's important that we make these movies that people get inspired. But we have these people now running the world, as Pope Leo says, that don't care. They don't
Right.
care about humans,
Right.
and they don't care about the planet. I have to say,
Yeah.
I was really disappointed in these astronauts on Artemis.
Yeah.
That not one of them, at least that I heard,
Mhm.
spoke about. They all spoke about the beautiful majesty of the earth and how beautiful it is. But I didn't hear any of them say, "Well, we got to stop destroying her." You
Yeah.
know, we have to take care of this beautiful blue ball. I didn't hear
Mhm.
any of that, and
Yeah.
that is not political. Why
No.
are we making it political?
Yep.
And I just get so upset. But we're not stopping. Chelsea and I talk about this thing, and we're not. It's not going to stop us, but it is. It does make you really sad. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what you know. It's why so many of these environmental scientists are the most depressing human beings on earth. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
because they know.
Yeah, what's coming and what's happening. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the work. It's just we have to keep putting these films out and keep talking about them and trying to make a difference like you're doing. Chelsea, when you would screen for the Congress in Brazil or here or at the UN, what are you learning that you can share with us about what we can do to make a difference with the Amazon teetering on the edge? How do we better take care of the Amazon and our planet?
Well, ultimately, the political situation in Brazil changed. There's a new president, and they were able to bring some incredible women leaders in, indigenous women leaders, and we've seen them demarcate more indigenous territories um, and really refund all the programs that were helping reduce deforestation. But I think that we need to remember that these corporations are still lobbying the government and ultimately changing the way that the laws are formed. And it's going to be a constant battle as long as we have corporations able to influence politics. We need to get campaign finance laws reformed. We need to get money out of politics from big
Mhm.
corporations. There's no other way to help this. I mean, the money is what's in charge right now. And Cargill is the largest privately owned agricultural company on earth, and they're based in Minnesota, and
Wow.
they control so much of the US food system. I mean, they're the largest, producer of eggs for McDonald's. Those chickens are fed by Cargill soy that comes out of illegal deforestation in the Amazon, and they're influencing the government in the US, the government in Brazil, eroding, just like JBS, eroding our climate change legislation. And
Mhm.
there's many companies doing this. And as consumers, I mean, the number one thing we can do is speak out about it. Obviously,
Yeah.
boycott, but it's like, let's see what's beyond that is like these companies like JBS and Cargill, almost no one's heard of them, but they're providing meat and chicken and all these products to companies like Kroger, Costco, Walmart. And so as a consumer, as much as possible, buying local is one thing you can really do. And
Cargill is a corporation. I've tried to interview them. They're in Minneapolis. Minnesota, there are 16 members of the Cargill family that are billionaires. 16 members of one family in America, and they I'm not saying every one of them, but what they're doing to the planet, this family, the Cargill family, and their names aren't all Cargill, by the way. It's monstrous. They're
Yeah.
monstrous. They're the ones getting rich, not the people destroying, not the poor people cutting down the trees,
Right.
not the people digging up the forest, not the people cutting their limbs off by mistake who to flatten the forest for their soy farms.
Yep.
The Cargill family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
It's
That
love to do a movie about that family, but
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. But who's gonna watch it? That's the other problem. Vanessa, where do they where you know, it's like humping this movie has been really interesting for 3 years. I mean, it's just been like getting these things out.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's amazing that we're here right now,
You're
Chelsea.
so good. You're
Yeah.
so good for speaking truth to power. You're so good for putting the facts out there and the reality on the ground that we otherwise have no way to see. I've never seen an environmental documentary like this. It was completely unique and extremely powerful and very beautifully made, really well told. These giant multinational corporations now have more money and power than many governments, many countries, all of us people. What more can we do to fight back? Do we want to encourage everyone to make more of these films? What can we do?
I think campaigns are good. I mean, Mark Ruffalo and I have been kind of celebrity wranglers for and Leo for the environment, but it's exhausting. Even on this, Chelsea keeps calling me, "Get your friend." It's hard, people don't want to do it
Right.
because but I would say that getting the awareness, it's like this Cargill thing has haunted me because there's been campaigns against them, but it doesn't
Mhm.
have any traction. There's
Right.
no traction. So I mean, even in before the flood, we called out Cargill back then, but I think it's really gonna come down to taking social media and figuring out a way to use it in a positive way to influence saving the planet. And I think short films or I don't know, that's another thing that I think you need to try to do a podcast about figuring out the next way to do this. Doing a movie is
Yep.
great, but
Yep.
they take a lot of money, a lot of time, and we need these corporations to distribute them. But if you
Hmm.
can just we can figure out a way to do short content and blast it out there and make it impact.
Yeah.
That that's what I think we need to do.
Yep. All right. Well, I'll take that advice and I'll try my best. Do a podcast on that subject. Thank you so much, Fisher. I really appreciate it. And Chelsea, do you have any last words or
Yeah, thanks,
thoughts?
Fisher. I think it's so true. We have to change the culture. Right now, a lot of people care about the environment, but
Mhm.
it's just we're so disconnected from nature. I mean, in the last
Yeah.
50 years, like 60% of people don't have as much connection with nature as they used to. And so we have to make it so unbelievably cool and sexy, like more than the Kardashians, for example, that
Yes.
we are not supporting big corporations. We are supporting local communities to protect the environment, and that I think as that together we can make that happen as a cultural shift, and that's what we need to do. And we need to do everything we can to break their power down. We need to change the government structures so that they cannot get away with literal murder.
Yes.
And so I think that we need to all remember our power in that. There's a lot more of us than there are of them, and we need to dedicate ourselves to it. I mean, it was really, I think one of your questions was, how did you manage the sadness of what you were covering in this
Yeah.
film? And I think I'd say the quote that action is the antidote to despair kept coming through for me because I was working on it. I was doing something about it. And that's so true. I mean, I felt a lot of joy through the process, just knowing that I was at least doing my part. I was doing something. And everybody can do that. Everybody can really work on this and use your creativity. There's so many ways to take this on. And you're going to need to look deeply to connect with your way to be a guardian and do your part and make a difference. So we can do it.
Beautifully said.
Well
Thank you
said.
both so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you